The 7 laws of manipulation. Every day, you are manipulated, not once, not twice, but hundreds of times. From the moment you wake up to the moment you close your eyes, there are hands pulling invisible strings you cannot see. The ads you scroll past, the politicians you hear, the limited time offers, even the friends you trust most. What if I told you that most of your decisions today were never really yours? They were engineered, crafted, designed by people who understand something you don't. The 7 laws of manipulation. Tonight, we reveal them, one by one, through the stories of con artists, cult leaders, corporations, and nations. And when you see the pattern, you'll never see the world the same way again. Before we can fight manipulation, we must understand why it works so well. The truth is this: the human brain is not designed for truth. It's designed for survival. That means we take shortcuts. We follow emotions, not logic. We obey authority because long ago, disobeying the tribe meant death. We believe repeated messages because our ancestors survived by trusting familiar patterns. These shortcuts, these biases, keep us alive. But manipulators? They study them, exploit them, weaponize them. And that is how the first law was discovered. The first law is the oldest, the most primal. The law of emotional exploitation. Here's the truth. When emotions rise, logic dies. Fear, love, anger, desire, each one is a lever, a switch inside your brain that bypasses reason. History proves it. In World War II, propaganda didn't rely on facts. It relied on fear. Posters of enemies as monsters coming to destroy families. Slogans that made you feel unsafe unless you acted. In relationships, manipulators use love bombing, drowning you in affection until you lose critical distance. In scams, urgency and fear are injected into every call. Your account will be shut down unless you act now. Emotions are faster than logic. That's why manipulators strike there first. And here's the terrifying part. Even knowing this law doesn't make you immune, because the moment you feel fear, love, or anger, your brain will still pull the trigger, unless you know the second law. The second law is about obedience, about control. It is called the law of authority and symbols. Humans are wired to follow authority. The white lab coat, the military uniform, the shiny badge, even a confident tone of voice. In the 1960s, psychologist Stanley Milgram ran an experiment. Volunteers were told to deliver electric shocks to strangers. The shocks weren't real, but the volunteers didn't know that. What happened? Over 65% of people continued shocking, even when the victim screamed in pain, simply because a man in a lab coat told them to. That is the power of authority. Manipulators know this. That's why corporations use experts in ads. Why dictators wear medals. Why cult leaders give themselves grand titles. It's not about truth. It's about symbols of power. The moment you see them, your brain relaxes, assuming they must know better. But do they? Or are they simply using the second law against you? Together, Law 1 and Law 2 are deadly. First, they stir your emotions. Then, they point to an authority who tells you what to do with that emotion. This is how wars start, how cults grow, how millions obey without question. Fear, love, anger, authority, symbols. The first 2 laws of manipulation. And yet, these are only the beginning. Because the manipulators who rule the modern world don't stop at emotions or authority. They dig deeper into urgency, scarcity, belonging, and repetition. We uncovered the first 2 laws of manipulation: emotional exploitation and authority and symbols. But those were only the opening moves. Now, we step deeper into the manipulator's playbook. The next 3 laws are not just tactics. They are weapons, sharpened through centuries of human history. And they are being used right now, against you. The third law is one you encounter every single day. It is called the law of scarcity and urgency. Your brain is wired for survival. For our ancestors, scarcity meant death. Not enough food, not enough water, not enough shelter. So when something seems rare, your brain panics. It screams, "Get it now, or you may never get it again." Manipulators weaponize this instinct. Limited time offer. Only 3 seats left. Prices go up at midnight. It works because your brain isn't calculating logic. It's calculating survival. Case study, Black Friday. People camp outside stores, they trample strangers, they fight over discounted TVs, not because they need them, but because they believe they're running out. In relationships, manipulators use scarcity by making themselves unavailable. They create urgency by withdrawing affection, then dangling it back like a prize. Scarcity clouds judgment, urgency kills reflection, and once both are triggered, people act like puppets. The 4th law is the law of social proof. Humans are herd animals. Alone, we are vulnerable. Together, we survive. So when we see others doing something, we assume it must be safe, it must be right. Manipulators know this. They create the illusion of consensus. Corporations use fake reviews. Cult leaders stage followers clapping or crying on cue. Politicians hire crowds to cheer, making you believe the whole nation is with them. Jonestown, 1978. Jim Jones convinced 918 people to commit mass suicide. Why did so many obey? Because they saw others drinking. And the human brain whispers, if everyone else is doing it, I must too. Social proof is powerful because it bypasses logic. We copy behavior not because it's correct, but because it feels safe. And the manipulator knows, if they can control the crowd, they can control you. The 5th law is repetition and familiarity. Psychologists call it the mere exposure effect. The more you hear something, the more you believe it, even if it's false. This is why propaganda repeats slogans, why commercials run the same jingle, why manipulators tell the same story again and again. Because the brain confuses familiarity with truth. Case study, The Big Lie. Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda minister, once said, "Repeat a lie often enough, and it becomes the truth." And it worked. Millions were conditioned into believing falsehoods simply because they heard them everywhere, all the time. Today, the same law governs social media. Algorithms reward repetition. The more times a claim is shared, the more true it feels. And so, entire populations can be brainwashed, not by evidence, but by endless echoes. By now, you've seen the manipulator's playbook unfold. Stir the emotions. Wear the symbols of authority. Trigger scarcity. Manufacture social proof. Repeat until belief is automatic. 5 laws, 5 chains on the human mind. But there are 2 more. The final laws are not just tactics. They are traps, designed to enslave your identity itself. You have seen the first 5 laws of manipulation, but there are still 2 left. The final laws are not just tactics of persuasion. They are prisons of the mind. Once they're in place, escape feels impossible. These are the laws that manipulators fear you will discover. Because once you see them, the spell begins to break. The 6th law is the most seductive. It is called the law of identity and belonging. Humans crave more than food or shelter. We crave belonging. We ask, who am I? Where do I fit? Manipulators answer that question for you. They give you a label, a group, a flag, a cause. And once you accept it, you will fight for it, even die for it. Cult indoctrination. Cults strip away your old identity, your family, your name, your history. Then they rebuild you a chosen one, a true believer. Your worth becomes tied to the group. Your self becomes enslaved. Nationalism and extremism. Dictators rally masses under slogans like us versus them. The group becomes sacred. The outsider becomes the enemy. The truth doesn't matter anymore. Only the identity, only the belonging. And when your very sense of self is bound to a manipulator's vision, how do you escape? To leave them is to lose yourself. That is the terrifying genius of the 6th law. The 7th and final law is the deadliest. It is called the law of gradual entrapment. A manipulator knows they cannot trap you all at once, so they do it piece by piece by piece. A little compromise here, a small concession there. At first, it feels harmless. But step by step, the chains tighten. Psychologists call this the foot-in-the-door technique. Once you agree to something small, you are more likely to agree to something bigger. The Milgram experiment revisited. Participants started with tiny shocks, harmless, then stronger still, until, without realizing it, They believed they were electrocuting strangers to death. Abusive relationships. The manipulator doesn't begin with violence. It starts with small criticisms, then isolation, then gaslighting. By the time abuse becomes obvious, the victim feels trapped. The law of gradual entrapment works because the victim never realizes they've crossed the line. Until escape feels impossible, this is the final law, the manipulator's masterpiece. Now you have seen all 7. 1. Emotional exploitation. 2. Authority and symbols. 3. Scarcity and urgency. 4. Social proof. 5. Repetition and familiarity. 6. Identity and belonging. 7. Gradual entrapment. Together they form a perfect web. The manipulator does not need all 7. But the more they weave, the tighter the snare. And the question now is not whether you've seen these laws in action. The question is, which ones are already being used on you? To defend yourself, you must train your mind to recognize the laws in real time. When you feel overwhelmed by emotion, pause. Ask, who benefits from this reaction? When you see authority, separate the uniform from the truth. When scarcity or urgency is pushed, ask, is this real or manufactured? When crowds chant, step outside the noise. When repetition numbs you, trace the origin of the message. When identity is offered, ask, is this mine or was it given to me? When concessions pile up, draw a line and step back. The key is awareness. The manipulators thrive in shadows. But when you shine a light, their tricks unravel. Defense begins not with fighting them, but with mastering yourself. You were born free, but freedom is not just the absence of chains. It is the ability to see the chains before they bind you. Now you know the 7 laws of manipulation. You've seen how they trap, seduce, and control, and you've learned how to fight back. If this video opened your eyes, share it. Because someone you know, right now, is in the grip of a manipulator, and they don't even realize it. Comment with the law that shocked you most, because others scrolling through may need your words to wake them up. And subscribe, because you can't afford to miss what comes next. The predators don't rest, the lies don't stop, and the only defense is awareness. But the war for your mind is not over, because in the next time, we will uncover how manipulators don't just control individuals, they engineer entire realities. Next, the architecture of lies, how manipulators build worlds you cannot escape. Stay awake, stay unbroken. And remember, the first defense against manipulation is knowing it exists